4 of the Premier League. They turned the screw in the second half. As you rightly said, Roy, curious goals, but they'll certainly take them in this situation. 2-1, Marco Correa scored it and started it.
Yes, it was a wonderful goal, that one, really. It was a really good run that he makes there, and they're the runs which aren't easy to pick up always. I think you need your fullback to tuck round very much in those situations. I think in a situation where there are 2 players free, in actual fact, you'll see, I think you're better off leaving the furthest one free and getting at least in front of the nearest one. But unfortunately, the fullback doesn't get back in quick enough.
Yeah, it's a late one. It's very hard to pick up, isn't it? With the sometimes you can see midfield runners, certainly you can see strikers, or even wide men you can track the runs. But when it's a fullback and they get forward into these positions, it's really difficult, isn't it?
But if you see the position there of the fullback, Nordy, he's really outside of the line that he needs to be in. He needs to be in at least a line with the other 2 defenders, and well inside of the person going to make the run. And then, of course, you'd have to accept that if the cross goes over his head to the further one, you can't blame him. But you don't want him getting done on the inside like he's been done there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, from Chelsea's point of view, they'll love that goal.
Great goal, yeah.
They'll love it. Cucurella, as you mentioned, Steve, he started the move. He then continues. He goes into midfield. He sees an opportunity to run into the box. I mean, we're seeing it more and more from certain teams now, but Cucurella gets in the box all the time. There's a couple of times in the first half that was nearly on the end of crosses as well, and very difficult to pick up. No wide man, no attacker wants to track their man all the way back. So inevitably, you get a free man a lot of the time in a dangerous position. So it worked a treat for that, and that was the goal that they needed to get their authority back in the game.
Yeah, and the goal that made absolutely sure we could have had a story of 3 defenders scoring in one game. I think you appreciated Madueke's situation. You've had 1 or 2 like this down the years, haven't you?
Thankfully an attacking player scored. Wouldn't have heard the end of it, all these defenders. But actually, I thought it was poor defending from Doherty, who scored a goal, scored the Wolves goal. But I mean, when the ball goes over everybody's heads, they almost fall asleep at the back post. Once the ball goes over the head, you've got to turn and you've got to be ready again. But you can see 2 bodies at the back post there, Roy, queuing up to score while 2 Wolves players sleeping.
Yeah, to be fair, they're not easy to defend those headers back across the goal. It was a really good goal, and credit really to both Madueke and Jackson, who saw the opportunity there. I think it's easy to sort of criticise the defenders should not be caught moving across, for that. But that was the problem. They all move across there. As the ball goes to that back post, everybody is moving across. So when the header comes back, they're on the wrong foot anyway. Their body shape's not right, as you rightly pointed out. But it's a harder thing to defend than one sometimes imagines. And all credit to Madueke, who's quick to read it there. And if not, Jackson's behind him.
Yeah, Roy's being kinder than me. I mean, I see Doherty there as a defender. When the ball goes out, I understand it's not so easy, but he literally leaves his man and runs out of the 6-yard box. And I thought that was a strange move, because I'm wondering, why is he doing that? He's not trying to play offside. He just almost vacates the area, leaves his man, and his man scores. But no, I get it. Once the ball goes over your head, to switch back onto a new phase of attack, new angles, new players, it changes the game.
It's second phase in the box, which is so important. All the times I was working, from crosses and from corner kicks, it's always trying to encourage your players not to get totally caught up in the first phase. Let the person who's in the first phase, in the heading duel, that's nothing to do with you, but don't you get caught up in that. You keep concentrating on what your job is. As Michael's rightly pointed out, his job there was not to allow Madueke to get in front of him. But it does happen more often than you think, and so many goals are scored on that second phase from a cross or a corner kick, more than you think.
And you're right, it's understandable. You think the ball, you're concentrating on not letting your man score, and then when the ball goes out of your area, you think, phew, that's it, that's the job done. It's all, and then all of a sudden, and an attacker's job is totally the opposite.
Exactly.
You see the ball going out of your zone, and you think, you don't turn and what? You think, right, how am I going to score again? How am I going to score again? Every split second, you're thinking, where's the opportunity? How can I get on the end of it? So it's a different way of thinking, of course. One's an optimist, one's a pessimist. But yeah, I think Wolves could have provided. They certainly will be frustrated that they conceded it on a set piece.
but you loved Madueke being alive.
Absolutely. I expect nothing less from my attacking player. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of goals scored from set pieces tonight, so it just shows you the importance of them. You know, defenders coming up, using their size, their strength, and but that time it was an attacking player that just thinks differently. Let's say, smells something that could happen. Or, you know, as I say, as aside from Doherty then, and I like that. Obviously, it wasn't a special finish, but just his awareness and his anticipation, I think, is to be commended.
Are they an even bigger part of the game than we've seen in a long time at the moment? These set plays seems to be, you know, we've got specialist coaches, we've got, you know, record numbers. Is it becoming even more pertinent, do you think, Roy?
One always seems to think so, and yet when you see the statistics at the end of the year and the percentage of goals scored from set plays, it seems to stay fairly stable around the 35-36% mark, which is always strange. And of course, it depends what you mean by set plays as well, really. I mean, it's I think one needs to break it down from corner kicks, from shots outside the box, direct free kicks, from the wide free kick that comes in. I'd like to see all that compartmentalised. But it's always been a very big part of the game. There's no doubt about that. And what we definitely have seen over the years I've been working, the quality of delivery is getting better and better. You've still got the situation, if you want to really score goals from set plays, you need people who are going to get on the end of the ball from the ball that's played in. To be fair, the ball's coming in now. If they do get on the end of it, makes scoring that a little bit easier. But you can go right back to the famous Leeds team with Reilly and Charlton and all those people, you know, basically decent ball in. Jackie Charlton or Tony Adams want to get their head on the ball, and John Terry, they get their head on the ball. Yeah. You know, and so nothing really changes strategically. But I do think, you know, it's always been a very, very important part of the game. And I think that we are seeing now people coming into coaching staffs who really have got only one job, and that is to constantly analyse the opponents, where their weaknesses could be, to work possibly on different little movements. But I've got to say, I've not really seen that many free kicks, however clever they are, where I'm saying I've never seen that before. They've always been there, but people's ability to really hone in and get the best out of situations, that's, you know, with Arsenal, how many times are the goals they score to do with Gabriel?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I just wonder, when you were managing, even in the last couple of years, the day before a match, how much time would you spend on telling the group something, or in the week leading up to the game, something? Let's say you were playing Arsenal, for example, at the moment, with Gabriel.
Well, you'd use your video analysis. That would be probably the major thing you do. Of course, you would go through it as well on the field, but the problem with going through on the field of play, and I learned this very early on, just before a European game when I was in Sweden, you know, having players in there, having balls fizzed in as they're going to be fizzed in, and having people defending like they should defend, you risk injury. You know, I lost a player from a head injury, you know, it was a heading duel, and one got cut, and that's it, couldn't play the next day. So we're always very conscious of that. So a lot of it is done more or less in shadow play. In not every club, I'm sure, but in my clubs I've always done it more shadow play, making certain people know their positions, attacking and defending, and then you really go through it in the video analysis. So I would like to think that the teams that I've coached have gone out knowing what our set play should look like and what they're going to come up against. But at the end of the day, it is a question, well, what delivery have we got? What delivery are we facing? How keen are we to get on the end of the ball? And how keen were they to get on the end of the ball? And sometimes you'll come away saying, well, they were better than us at set plays, but it might not be because they had better shape for their set plays. It might just have been that the quality was better and they had people prepared to make the effort to get on the end of the ball.
Does help. I mean, I've been thinking of set pieces for a while, and on the final word, we've done some analysis over the weeks. And my initial impression, as you're talking there about, you know, the percentage of set pieces that have been scored this season, my initial feeling, and I don't know if I would be right, would be that a lot of corners are being scored from this season. Fewer corners, fewer goals from direct free kicks nowadays.
Yeah.
Obviously, the lion players under the wall, then that enables everyone to jump. Very few goals going from direct free kicks compared to in previous seasons. So, but I guess by the end of it, as Roy said, by the end of the season, it'll be a similar number to normal. But I do think corners are becoming possibly more important, and as I say, maybe free kicks less relevant. But there will be somebody that's analysing this and thinking, right, we're going to have to do something different now to gain an advantage in a certain thing. And I think the free kicks, direct free kicks from the edge of the box, are the next thing to be changed. I think there's not enough goals going in from them at the moment. I think that will change soon.
Well, our man Chris has analysed it, as you would expect. 80 corner goals this season, which is down on this stage last season. Only 7 direct free kick goals all season in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Okay, so corners are down as well.
Corners are slightly down.
That's fascinating, because they have made all the headlines, haven't they? Especially with Arsenal.
And I think that's what you were alluding to there,
It's still quite even if the percentage stays at a third or just over a third, that's still an awful lot of goals.
Yeah.
You know, and especially if you're conceding from them, you know, it's or having a good spell where you're scoring, it's going to make an enormous difference, because 1/3 of all your goals scored. Goals are hard to score, as Michael knows more than any of us. You know, to have someone who can get those goals for you, either through free play or from set plays, that's going to make a hell of a difference at the end of the season. You know, the last time, my last period at my last season at Palace, we conceded a lot of goals from corner kicks. Far too many.
So Chelsea did get them, and what do we think about top 4 at this stage? The youngest starting 11 on average in the Premier League. Are they above where people expected them to be at this stage?
I would say either just above or par. I think if you're expecting them to be second in the league at the moment, you're probably expecting a little bit too much.
But given the chaos Enzo Maresca walked into when he walked through the door.
Absolutely. So I think, in my eyes, I would say, casting my mind back to the start of the season, would I expect that? Yeah, I think they're slightly overperforming at the moment, doing well. 4th in the league. If they finish 4th in the league, I think most Chelsea fans would have snapped your hand off at the start of the season. Doing well, as you say. It's a young team. It's going to improve. I've really been impressed with this man. He had so many players. It must be such a temptation to mix and match, keep everybody happy. But you don't get any continuity. I love the way he's just gone, this is my squad. You're not playing. In fact, I'll have a bit of a European team. Now we're getting to a bit of a transfer window. I'm going to get rid of 3 or 4 players just to prune the team a little bit more. And I've really been impressed with the way he's done it. Yes, it's hard on some, harsh on some, but that's just the way it is. And it's a lot easier to manage, I would guess, than having 25 players that you're trying to keep happy all the time.
Because we had Frank Lampard with us before he took the Coventry job. And when he went back in that interim spell and he didn't have any power, he said, I was walking out on the training pitch with 31 players. He said, it's just an impossible situation.
And plenty of them knocking on his door saying, well, I'm playing.
Of course. No, I agree entirely with what Michael said. I think that's a very good summary of the situation. I think 4th place is very good. And I think it is important not to have too many players. You know, I know that people think it's good to have lots of players, but, you know, they don't know what it's like to be in a situation where you've got to manage those players. And, you know, it's a harsh job being a manager, in the sense that you know that every week you're going to disappoint more players these days than you actually make happy. I mean, in the past, when it was really 15, 16 people competing, you were disappointing 5 or 6, but now you're probably disappointing 14 or 15. You know, you have a constant stream knocking on your door, and there's so little you can tell them when they come in. Why do I play? Well, I can only play 11, basically. That's all you can say.
Yeah, you run out of excuses after a little while, you can imagine. It must be difficult. But then again, you get the flip side when you have a small squad and you get a few injuries, and all of a sudden you have to rely on the kids or players that you don't want. So there is absolutely a balance, I'm sure. But I think I would agree with Roy. If I was going to go into managing, I'd probably err on the smaller squad than the bigger one.
But they've got a good foundation here to push on, and as Michael says, if they can finish in the Champions League spots this season, that's been a good season for Chelsea.
They'll have a good chance of finishing in a European spot, won't they? Because I think the European spots are going further and further down. You know, you're going almost to 7 now to be able to say we're going to play in Europe next year. You want to be in the big league, of course. You want to be in that top 4 or possibly 5. But I think that they'll be satisfied, and I think everything Michael said about the youth of the team and, you know, the job that Maresca's done in trying to sort out what his team really needs to look like, he deserves a lot of credit. And this was an important win tonight, because if they hadn't won this one tonight, it would have been more games without that win.
And it just feels a lot more settled, doesn't it? It just felt like there was a headline all the time.
There's no noise coming out of Chelsea.
No noise coming out of Chelsea at the moment. It's all sort of feels like a settled club. I think the manager should take a lot of credit for that, the way he comes across in his interviews, as Roy said before the game. You know, it just feels like a much more settled club. And it's felt like a circus for years and years and years now. So I think Chelsea fans will be pleased with that. And I think that the signs for the future are promising.
Okay, you both talked about Maresca's interviews. Let's get quick reaction then from the winning Chelsea manager.
Important win tonight, end of a tough run of results, back at the top four. But how did you feel about the performance?
But I think the first 40 minutes we were top. The performance was very good, completely dominate the game, score, chances. And then the last 5 minutes happened what is happening many times in the last 4 or 5 games. We lost a little bit of confidence, we conceded the goal, and we start to be a little bit not afraid, but to struggle a little bit. And then second half, I think we start quite well. And then after the second and the free goal, I think the game was in control.
Yeah, you mentioned recently the game management. Did you feel like at least it was a shorter period where you felt you lost control of the match? Do you see progress in the sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We lost the control probably, as I said, the last 5 minutes of first half. Then second half, I think we start well. And when we scored, the game was under control.
And he faces Pep again now on the back of that on Saturday at the Etihad. That's why it was important, I guess.
Yeah, but I thought that was a very fair analysis of the game, a fair summary. He's a very calm man. I think that's quite important, really. He obviously doesn't get that carried away. He's not jubilant there. He's cold-bloodedly analysing the performance. He's obviously satisfied and happy. Every 3 points you get in this league, every victory should be celebrated. That's one thing. If ever any young coach is watching this programme today, there's one thing that they should bear in mind. Don't ever think you shouldn't celebrate your victories, because, if you don't, the defeats get even harder when they come your way.
Yeah, I mean, he's impressive. I'm looking at that interview and thinking, has his team won today or lost? I mean, he just flatlines, doesn't
exactly,
he? He's
a bit like when they were second and everyone was asking him about the title.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly what they need. As I say before, a bit of a circus over the last few years. Probably needs that calm influence of the club. And he's doing a good job.
Okay. Roy's been superb having you with us. Thank you very much.